One of the questions you may have is, Matt, why does it look like you went from working with key intel and students and camera moving all over the place to solo recording? And that's a good question. The thing I think that makes Bruce Lee so incredible as martial art throughout the years is that Bruce Lee documented. He was huge on documentation. He videotaped everything. So we still have all these records of his training and the incredible things that he did and performed. The same thing goes with a lot of different martial artists who are developing something long term. I record everything. I record training sessions. I record classes. I record seminars. Record everything that I possibly can so I can look back years earlier and see what we were doing and see how things have evolved and changed. Now, the difference with this approach and other people's approaches, which is make a martial art video, make it an hour, charge $45 for it, and have a bunch of cool techniques in it, is the difference between a style and a system. You see, the CLM is the guiding principle of PROMAC and adaptive combatives. It's what we do. It's how we focus when it comes to combatives. But not only that, but in the fitness side, in the health side, that attention weighting, breaking down the way that we learn is the basis for everything that we do. But in this video, we really talked a lot about how are we going to fight. You see, the style of fighting that we have, that is the language of the system. How we fight with adaptive combatives, it's the language of the system. It's the psychology, the neurology, the mechanics, and the physics. You really have to step back and look at it and say, am I learning something that has a holistic view with an underlying principle, and then that principle says this is a style of knife fighting according to these principles. This is a style of fist fighting according to these principles. This is how we kick. This is how we roll. This is how we move. This is how we shoot. Are these styles that go back to that system, and then you have that guiding principle that they're all slotting back to. And that's what PROMAC is. It's a system. It's an entire system, and then we have styles of doing things. But all of it is guided by the CLM, which is why I put so much emphasis on it. A lot of people go, Matt, just make some cool martial art videos. I'm not in this to make cool martial art videos. If I was, I'd have key intel in here right now. I'd be beating up students and putting it all over the internet. My interest with PROMAC is to develop something that moves larger, that becomes a larger system. You have to remember, the original name of the Kalashnikov system was PROMAC. It's one of the original names. We named PROMAC what we named it, with their blessing and encouragement, because they saw that we were doing what they tried to do. Create something universal that everybody can use. So martial artists out there that are watching this, it's not all about how I do an armbar or a throw or how I punch. It's more about how do we get there. And how do we get there together using the science of the EPL and the CLM that are in books. We're just applying them. Versus go teach the class, here's your piece of paper, these are the things that you need to do, check the box, get paid at class, and leave. That's not the attitude that we have, and it's not the attitude that we have towards videos. One of these days we'll do a data dump that will blow people's minds with the amount of stuff that we actually film. We have hundreds of gigs and hard drives filled with just PROMAC footage to create this record. And that record goes back to that underlying principle that there's got to be something universal here between all the different martial arts. There's got to be a universal principle of how we're learning. There's got to be a universal principle of the neurology and the mechanics and the physics, and that's what we're trying to touch on. Do we get it perfect every time? No. But at least we're trying. And with the CLM, it's the difference between the system and the style. If somebody says, come on in, I'm going to teach you how to punch, kick, do all this different types of stuff, you say, what's your pedagogy? What's your methodology? I learned it from this guy. That's a style of doing things. That's not a system. A system is all-encompassing. If you go into the classroom and you say, that's really great, can you give me all your, your documentation and, how do you guys learn to teach? What is all this? And people give you that, you're learning a system. And that's much more powerful. One of the things I want to close with is that if you would have told me years ago, sitting in a snow-covered field in Pennsylvania studying Ross, or sitting in a cold gym in Krasnodar, or traveling the world. All these different places that I've been over the years that I've documented and filmed and got as much as I could. If you told me that we would end up at the point that we're at now with the CLM and the concepts that we have and the things that we're doing, I would have believed you. Most people would say, I wouldn't have believed you, I would have laughed. I would have believed you because I always knew what the guiding principle was, and it was to conquer yourself. It was to figure out a systemized way that anybody could pick up and use elements of it in order to better their martial art, their fitness, or their lives. So I want to thank you for always being there and jumping on top and going to the mat with us, even when the stuff that we do doesn't make sense. Videos explain it. Written word explains it. And those are the types of things that we want to give you, because sometimes you look at something that looks so foreign. Cut. I want to close with this. If you had told me years ago, sitting in a snow-covered field in Pennsylvania, or you had told me while I was sitting in a cold gym in Krasnodar, or, in a patrol car, or any other place that I've been over these years of doing all of this, that we would end up today where we are with the CLM and the things that we're doing, I would have believed you. Most people say, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have laughed. I would have believed you because I always knew the guiding principle of what we were doing was to conquer yourself. It was to create a systemized way of doing things that we could begin to apply and work with in our training classes, that we could apply to the way that we do fitness and health and shooting and knife fighting and martial arts and thought processes and solving problems. I always knew I wanted to move in that direction. I wanted PROMAC to move that direction. But it wasn't until folks like you bought our videos and really started supporting us that we began to be able to develop a lot of the things that we've developed, because more and more high-powered people with great thought processes about styles of doing things came to us. And so we want to work with you. So at the end of the day, PROMAC owes the most thanks to the people that have bought it, more than the people that are developing it. You continue to allow us to work with incredible people all over the globe to continue to develop this experiment called PROMAC. And for that, I want to thank you. Now, go out there, conquer yourself, have fun with the information, apply it to your students, apply it to yourself, and let's make sure that everything that we do because we want to be better and more efficient. I'm Matt Powell. You can always check me out at matt@promac.com. I appreciate you watching this video. Check out the website. It always looks great. Check out the podcast. We always have great guests. And more than anything, have fun with your training.